Welcome to Pensar Basketball Live, and we got a pair of road warriors, a pair of road upsets. The Boston Celtics get smoked at home by the Cleveland Cavaliers. Behind a very balanced attack, we will talk about the other guys because that was a really big theme in both games. The other guys stepping up in game one, of course, Tristan Thompson, Canadian boy Tristan Thompson, former champion Tristan Thompson, showing some of that championship pedigree and really playing bully ball with a team that really just did not feel ready to compete in the Boston Celtics. And then on the other hand, you had Derrick Jones Jr. competing his butt off for the Dallas Mavericks. You had PJ Washington, again, the other guys, the guys we don't talk about too much, but a mid-season addition. PJ Washington, he was a huge addition, a huge steal for them from the Charlotte, I was going to say Bobcats, Hornets. And he went off for 7 threes. Like, this is a gamble, right? And the Thunder are betting that in a 7-game series, that more often than not, they're going to zone up, they're going to send help to Luca and Kyrie, and they're going to leave shooters open. They left them open on game 1. They did not make them pay. They left them open in game 2, and Tim Hardaway Jr. and PJ Washington did make them pay. Josh Green got in on the action as well. And flip it on the other side, the Oklahoma City Thunder, their shooters did not make anybody pay, right? Shea had a pretty big game. So let's take a look at it. We'll talk about the Celtics and Cleveland Cavaliers game first, even though I have the Mavericks one open. And hopefully this is not going to be too long a live, but the call-in link is there. If you would like to call in, definitely talk. We're going to have a live tomorrow as well. Of course, we're going to have a live for Denver versus, we're going to have Indiana, New York game 3 tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. Is that tomorrow? Let's just check here. It is tomorrow. So Indiana, New York at Indiana is going to be game 3 tomorrow, and Denver, Minnesota. So no team has come back from 0-3. So this is do or die time for both Indiana and Denver. Unfortunately for Denver, they're going to be doing it on the road. So that's going to be interesting, and we will definitely have you covered there. I'm very excited. I'm very excited for those two pairs of games. I fully expect Indiana to come out swinging. I also expect Denver to put up a better fight. But yeah, let's talk about this Cleveland-Boston thing, because it did not look this way early, right? It looked like Boston was going to just coast to a victory, as they have done often. And then somewhere in the third quarter, Cleveland just got some separation, and they never looked back. And a lot of that was Donovan Mitchell, who was very quiet in the first half. He got his teammates involved, man. This is the game within the game we talk about all the time, right? Take a look at the win probability. Cleveland had a moment, 30-21, and then Boston punched back. They got to 44, 46, 49, 43, and Boston started to coast. 49, 43, and they were like, it's going to be a blowout. It's going to be another blowout. This team's not going to, they're not going to punch back. And Cleveland just kept biding their time. And then by the time the third quarter came around, I tell you, the Boston Celtics came out of that. They came out of that halftime huddle, and it felt like they were not ready to compete. They had it within 3 with 10 minutes to go on a Jaylen Brown rebound. And then it's just from that point on, it was a lot of threes, just clank, clank, clank. If you take a look at the team stats here, they just did not defend. They did not compete hard enough. They shot 23% from 3. Now, I'm willing to bet that's not going to happen twice. Okay, so you got your one Boston shitty game out of the way. Okay, they get really flustered when their threes don't go down. They stop thinking, they stop competing, and frankly, even shooting 23% from 3, I believe, had they guarded tonight, they probably could have won this game. They didn't guard. I believe that their defense was soft. I think Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have this defect where they play rec league ball or rec ball. They kind of play my turn, your turn. And it's ironic that they're both on the Celtics, because I remember Antoine Walker and Paul Pierce used to do this as well, and used to drive me crazy under Rick Pitino. And was it Rick Pitino back then? I believe so. Anyways, it was infuriating basketball, and it's still infuriating basketball, half a lifetime later. When this team is going right, which is to say when they're getting paint touches and the ball is going out and it's humming around and everyone's connected defensively, they're pretty much impossible to beat. So basically, if they're going to be beat, it's going to be beat like this. They lose the offensive rebound battle, which shouldn't happen. Jared Allen is not playing. Al Horford is. You're bigger than this team. They have a very, very small backcourt. You have a huge backcourt. You should have a massive advantage on gang rebounding. Jason Tatum's an incredible rebounder. You lose everything. You lose the stocks battle. You lose the turnovers battle. You protect the ball, but that's probably because you weren't passing it, right? You lose the fast breaks points. You lose the points in the paint battle. You lose everything. Okay, like you truly lose everything. Top it off, Jason Tatum picks up a flagrant foul as well. So honestly, I think they got a tremendously balanced effort. Every single Cav, who started was in double digits, including Max Strus with 12 and Isaac Okoro with 12. But then the big switch in this game for me was Evan Mobley. 21 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 blocks. I think he played a tougher game. He felt sure with the basketball, and 5 assists is no joke for that guy. He has not responded well to the physicality that teams have sent at him first in the first round with Orlando. I felt like he shrunk in that moment in game 7, and Donovan Mitchell just had to kind of drag him. It was nice to see him support Donovan Mitchell tonight, and Donovan Mitchell supported him right back. Hit some big threes, some real backbreakers, a huge 3 to end that third quarter to send the Celtics into that, fourth quarter huddle with like kind of a sour taste in their mouth. And, I got to tell you, like, this is going to happen with the Celtics once every single round. Every round, without fail. Mark it on your calendars. Yes, this team is good, but they self-destruct like no team I have ever seen in my life. Over the last 3 years, it is predictable as hell. They do not take their opponents seriously. They have bad habits. This is a team with a lot of bad habits. I don't know where these bad habits come from. They've had 3 different coaches, and these bad habits have remained. Something tells me these bad habits are probably your leaders, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, because Marcus Smart is gone. Malcolm Brogdon is gone. Rob Williams is gone. A lot of guys have come in, a lot of guys have gone out, and these habits remain. This culture remains of this phenomenally well coached, talented, two-way, on paper, indestructible team that far too often has games like this in the playoffs. We talked a lot yesterday about ticker problems with Indiana. Sometimes it feels like Boston has a bit of a ticker problem themselves. But I don't think it's a ticker problem with Boston. I think it's more of a maturity problem. They need to grow the fuck up. Because if they do this against any team from the West, that's including Dallas, that's including Minnesota, that's including Denver, those 3 teams, if they mess around like this in the finals with those 3 teams, and yes, I am very much expecting them to go to the finals. You know what? If they mess around like this with New York, they might find themselves in a 7-game series. I was listening to Draymond Green's podcast, yesterday, and he was like, I don't give New York any chance in the finals. I'm like, don't be so sure, because I don't think you would have given, Miami any shot in the finals last year either, and they made it anyways, because ultimately this team just, they have this self-destruct mode that is just really, the one coach that seemed to get it out of them a little bit was Ime Udoka. I feel like he had them on edge a little bit, and he had them growing up a little bit. But Joe Mazzulla ain't it, man. And I really do wonder, if they lose in the finals, is his job safe? Like, how long do you go with this? Like, how many years are you willing to go with this? Because, yeah, he's a very interesting coach. But this philosophy, I wonder, right? There's like different ways to win and different ways to lose, I believe. You can make a case that there's 100 different ways that the Boston Celtics can beat a team. You've chosen a way that, in my opinion, is proven to come up short a lot. Jump shooting teams that don't have a counter to that, sometimes they come up short. Yeah, I mean, they got nothing off their bench other than Peyton Pritchard. Luke Cornett Sam Hauser, guys that I think have been pretty capable players all year, did not give much off the bench. Xavier Tillman tried his best, God bless his soul, to deal with Tristan Thompson inside. Man, that guy is a brute strength, like force. I think Tristan Thompson might be the strongest player in the NBA. Is that crazy? Is that crazy to say? That's like some grown man strength. That's like farmer strength. You know what I mean? Like he just moves people. And even though he went 1 for 2 from the free throw line and went 0 for 2 from the field, I feel like he had a tremendous impact on this game when Evan Mobley got that fourth foul. And JB Bickerstaff went to his bench, and in the first half he went small, but in the second half he decided to go big, and it was the right decision. So kudos to him for adjusting mid-game. Despite my many protests that Marcus Morris Sr. is not an NBA player, he plays tonight, and he even scored 4 points. That's incredible. Karis LeVert was the story, of course, off the bench for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Kind of makes you think about this thing that Draymond often says, which is, guys 1 through 4 don't win you championships. It's guys usually 5 through 8 that win you championships. I hope I'm not butchering that quote, but it's true. It's very true, right? If you look at the Raptors championship, Fred VanVleet, Norman Powell, Serge Ibaka, guys like that, right? Like they really knew their role. They bought into their role. They excelled at their role. And it's really hard to imagine that the Raptors could have won a championship without those guys. Truth be told, it's really hard to imagine that any team is going to win without their bench. And I mean, unless you're the New York Knicks, in which case you really don't have a bench. But I think that at some point you do crap out when you lack depth. If you over leverage, and that's why I think Minnesota has the most solid chance at winning a championship this year, and OKC has a puncher's chance at upsetting Dallas, in my opinion, because that depth is really relevant when you go to guys 6, 7, 8, because anything can happen, right? Look at what Boston's going through right now. You can make a very strong argument that Kristaps Porzingis doesn't get injured in that Magic series. We're probably not going to a game set. Sorry. You can make an argument that Kristaps Porzingis doesn't get injured in that Miami series. You can make a really strong case that you probably win tonight. They would have nothing to stop that guy. It puts so much pressure. But now you got to go to your backup, and it's Luke Cornett and Xavier Tillman. And those are solid backup bigs. But Al Horford was a different backup big. You put Al Horford against Tristan Thompson, suddenly you're matching up, you're winning that matchup. Sometimes you lose the matchup when you go to these, lesser options. And, the Celtics have to look themselves in the mirror and just ask themselves, how many times are we willing to do this before we learn our lesson? They say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. Celtics have done this over and over and expected different results, and I appreciate the fact that this team has, despite not having a top 5 player in the NBA, gotten to the finals, gotten to the Eastern Conference Finals, etc. many times. Jason Tatum has played a lot of playoff games. We need to see some growth here, man. And he did not attack the rim as much as I would have liked him to. He did not defend the way I would have liked him to. He had a lot of just ball watching and stagnant offensive possessions. When they look at this tape, they're going to realize they basically breathed life into the Cleveland Cavaliers, and the Cavaliers took it. Kudos to the Cavaliers. They deserved this win, a very hard-fought win. The Celtics fought all year, 64-18. They had a crazy home record. They were 37-4 at home, and they just lost home court advantage. So good luck to the Celtics. They will have to go and win one on the road, because God knows you do not want to come back to Boston down 3-1 again. So now you got to win one in Cleveland, and probably it's going to be game 3. But that means you got to dial in. And once again, this is such a self-inflicted wound. It's really crazy. It's crazy that this team keeps doing this to themselves. Now, speaking of self-inflicted wounds, there were no self-inflicted wounds here. In fact, I do think that the Oklahoma City Thunder played a pretty good game. They bet on a strategy that just did not work. Will they adjust from that strategy? I don't think they will. I don't think they will. I don't think they need to. I don't think they will. I think they're a very young team. I think a lot of people, intelligent people that I know, favored the Mavericks to come out of this series. I'm one of those people. I favored the Mavericks to come out of this series. The OKC Thunder are not supposed to win this series. I'm just being honest. Yes, they have a really good player. The Mavericks have the better player. Luca is a better player than Shea. When push comes to shove, He is a more dynamic offensive player. He is a stronger player. He is a way more experienced player. He's a better player. They have the better second option in Kyrie Irving. You know, as much as I like Jalen Williams, as much as I like Chet Holmgren, the Dallas Mavericks have the way better second option in Kyrie Irving. And then, even though he only scored 9 points tonight, they did not need him to score more. And then it's just the experience of the other guys. It's the size. It's the age. It matters. It really matters. Age and experience matter in the playoffs a lot. Okay. Derek Lively did not have a great game tonight. Daniel Gafford battling through that hand that he got. He definitely, he'll have to get X-rays or an MRI or something on his hand because he blocked that shot and he was not the same after that. Luca Doncic, leg bleeding, all sorts of issues, lower body issues, but he put up a hell of a performance. He came out and he breathed life into his team. 5 3-pointers tonight after going like one for I think in the last game. He was really solid. I had the Dallas Mavericks winning tonight. I really did. Like I was just like, you know what? They're gonna come out, they're gonna win this game. Then they're gonna go back to Dallas. They're probably gonna split there, and we're gonna have a 7-game series. It's probably gonna be that way, right? But if Luca gets healthy, like OKC is gonna wish they won this game. Because I'm telling you, when he gets healthy, they do not have answers for him. I've heard the Lou Dort suggestions. Lou Dort is going to give him business. Please look at his numbers against Lou Dort, bro. I've heard stories about how Jalen Williams is a great defender and he's going to be able to offer resistance. I've heard, theories about Cason Wallace and he's pesky and he can get into Luka's space. Bro, no, none of these guys are going to, it's weird. I mean, you're talking about Luka Doncic, okay? You're talking about a guy who's had historic performances against Kawhi and PG back to back to back, okay? This is not a guy who is bothered by length, and those guys are longer and bigger than the defenders you're throwing at him. Lou Dort is a hell of a defender against most players. He is a great defender, and he will probably clamp most players. He's even clamped Kawhi Leonard. Jalen Williams is a hell of a defender. I think he's 22 years old, 23 years old. I mean, he is great. He's going to be a star. He's going to be an all-star, multi-time all-star. Chet Holmgren was incredible inside in terms of rim deterrence tonight. He got like a really big block, a couple of just dunks that would have just been a dunk, and then Chet says, no, 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 no. Chet had some Dikembe Mutombo stuff tonight. 2 blocks does not really describe how great he was there. He's not there yet. He's not there yet. So if Luka figures this out, the amount of pressure that guy puts on you, the shots that he can create for his teammates because of just how dynamic a playmaker he is, it creates so many problems. It's like a combination of a lock, right? Luka is like the first key, and he just keeps unlocking everything. Once he's healthy, if he's healthy, I can't remember when game 3 is. I have a feeling it's like two days from now. It's an afternoon game, right? So, you go back to Dallas, you go home, some home cooking. That place is going to be ruckus. You've got home court advantage now. So you're technically up in this series. This is the Dallas Mavericks series. I mean, the OKC Thunder are going to look themselves in the mirror and say, we did our best. And that's true. One adjustment that I would make, I would definitely bench Josh Giddey for the rest of his life. I don't think that guy is going to get into the game ever again. And I mean, that's crazy, but dude, he played 11 minutes and he was negative 20. They tell you not to look at plus minus this way, but I'm telling you with him, it is very real. They went on a run every time he was on the court. He's virtually unplayable. I believe he played 14 or 15 minutes, 17, 18 minutes. He played under 20 minutes in the first game. His minutes have been cut down a lot. They went with Wiggins to start the second half. I think they should have stayed with it because when he came in, lead swung again. You can go back and check. They're just not getting enough from him to warrant him playing minutes. Okay, Gordon Hayward, who had come in, and Gordon Hayward is like ex-Celtic, $30 million, great white hope. That guy, right? Gordon Hayward. He's pretty far removed from that, unfortunately, right? He just has not quite found his footing in this team on this offense. 5 minutes. I mean, here's the thing. He's bigger than Isaiah Joe, right? He's got some size here that could probably be useful. Like, he's a pretty big dude. Like, I know he's a wing, but, like, he's more like a 4 in terms of his size and length and whatever. So, in terms of girth, this notion of girth, this word girth just keeps coming up, non-sexual, but, like, this word girth keeps coming up when it comes to the OKC Thunder. They don't have enough. They don't have enough beef, they don't have enough width. And, that's one guy who has a little bit. He has some grown man strength. He's in his 30s and he can probably hang, and he has some experience that you could maybe lean on a little bit. I don't see how you're worse if Gordon Hayward plays instead of Josh Giddey. I really don't. At this point, how could you be? Josh Giddey is not doing shit for you. You're not running offense through him. You have Jalen Williams and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Beyond that, you have Chet Holmgren, who is more than capable of being a bit of a playmaker himself. How much playmaking do you need? You know, look, at this point, I have a pulse for how smart Mark Daigneault is as a coach. I do think he's brilliant. He has to know at this point that Josh Giddey is hurting the hell out of his team, right? It's not funny. In terms of the Mavericks, they got a really balanced attack. Derek Lively had a really tough game shooting from the field, missed a lot of gimmies, but he was all over the place defensively. He was on the court for some of the most positive runs. When Daniel Gafford went out, I think there's one sort of genius move that Jason Kidd made, and I believe it was in the third quarter when Luca had like back to back stupid possessions. There was one where he just didn't get down the court, and they kind of lucked out because there was a turnover by the OKC Thunder, and he gets a fast break dunk or a fast break put like it wasn't a dunk. It was a fast break, and then he fakes Chad, and he puts up a layup. Jason Kidd takes him out, and then momentarily takes Kyrie out as well, and everyone was kind of questioning, like, whoa. I think it was 77-77 at the time when they did that. And when he did that, I'm gonna just take a look 1 second, just make sure that I'm not losing my mind here. Was it 87-87? It was tied though. Hang on, where was it? It was right here. There we go. So Luka Doncic makes a 2-point shot. PJ Washington assists. And then it was like right here, like this right here. Luka goes to the bench. I'm gonna make it bigger for y'all. Hang on 1 sec. This is exactly when Luka went to the bench. 77-77. You see that? Okay. At that moment, the win probability was still OKC 57. By the time Luka came back into the game, which was around a minute 50 to go in the third quarter, or it was like right around here. Now, it just so happens that these minutes also coincided with Josh Giddey's minutes. So maybe it's not all Josh Giddey's fault. Maybe it's the fact that the Dallas Mavericks finally put in Tim Hardaway Jr., who was going to play defense and a little bit better than Luka, and he wasn't going to complain and whine to the refs. I was not super impressed with Luka's second half, to be honest, but when he came back, he was a maestro. He had a three, and it was a big one. Like, he has a presence about him, like where he knows he has like a presence to hit the ones that matter. And he's a scary player. And I tell you, like, if you're a basketball player and you see Luka Doncic on the other side, man, he is a friggin' scary as hell player, because there has to be a realization at some point that he's better than everyone in the gym. If you play basketball on any level, that guy. Like, everyone has that guy. Maybe that guy is like the best guy in your state, or maybe that guy is the best guy in your city, or maybe that guy's the best guy in the tournament, but everyone has like an awareness of who that guy is. And he moves some stuff, he moves some stuff on your team. He moves some stuff on his team. And I think Luka, he calmed down a little bit. Defensively, he was a sieve tonight. I think he just wasn't moving very well. Jalen Williams got around him many, many times. I think Jay Will was really solid tonight. Really just energetic, very positive, infused with talent with shot making. And, he hit a couple of really big threes tonight for them. So I think he was just solid. And everyone who really played off their bench, from Aaron Wiggins to Jalen Williams to Isaiah Joe, even Cason Wallace, who's a rookie, I think they gave him everything they could, right? But it's just like, you're going to get this poor shooting performance from Chet, and you're going to get nothing from Josh Giddey. You're not going to win this game. And frankly, had those guys just done what they were supposed to do, maybe you're tied. And that's kind of the point here, right? When you play this good a game, if you're the OKC Thunder, sometimes it just comes down to luck. And that's really what it is. So if you're Mark Daigneault, you're going to look at this tape and you're going to say, I'm going to bet that PJ Washington's not going to go 7 for 11 again. Okay. And if you're Jason Kidd, unless you're willing to change something, you're probably going to bet that he is. Or you're going to bet that Tim Hardaway Jr. is going to go 7 for 10 next game. Or you're going to bet that, I don't know, Josh Green or maybe Kyrie Irving goes off next game. Like, you're going to have to bet that at some point someone is going to be able to provide some spacing in the starting lineup because you're playing Daniel Gafford, who's a non-shooter. And Derek Jones Jr. for defense is very useful, but he's not a great shooter either. And they left him open all night, and he did not make them pay. He went 1 for 5. There's a lot of aches and pains right now for the Dallas Mavericks. They probably should be concerned about. Luca is the biggest one, but obviously Daniel Gafford is another one. Derek Jones was holding stuff. Like, I mean, this team is just sort of falling apart at the seams, right? And they do have some depth. I think Dante Exum is more than capable of playing 15 to 25 minutes if he needed to, so they have another option here, and he shot very, very well from 3 earlier this year. He's he went 0 for tonight, but I just don't know. I don't know where the OKC Thunder go from here, but they're a tough team. They're a resilient team, and I think they will come back in this series. I think this will be a long series, but of course, I mentioned it earlier, the longer this series goes, the more it favors Dallas. OKC's best shot, given Luca's current injury status, was to finish it quick, like 4-0, 4-1. The minute this goes into game 6, game 7, I don't think you're going to beat Luca and Kyrie 2 games in a row. It's just really hard to believe, man. It's just really hard to believe. So, get up 3-1. Okay, fine. Steal both games in Dallas. It's a meltdown, but I don't think that's going to happen. So I don't know. I'm edging very much to Dallas and Minnesota in the finals, in the Western Conference Finals, and also towards Knicks and Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals. And ironically, I did look at my pre-playoffs. I looked at my pre-playoffs bracket, and I actually did have Knicks and Boston coming out. I did not expect Giannis to be this injured, so I had the Bucks extending in the first round, past Indiana. I had Indiana bounce in the first round, so they've already surpassed my expectations. But I did have Boston, New York in the Eastern Conference Finals in my bracket, so we'll see if that holds true. Alexander, Rob, you definitely need to watch the Luca post-game interview. What happened? Where is it? I'll watch it, but like, where is it? Was he complaining about the refs again? Hold on. I'll find it. Give me 1 sec. Oh, here we go. Cool.
Can you come pick me up?
No, sorry, I don't have my car.
1 sec. Give me 1 sec, guys. I'm going to download it. We'll watch it together. It better not be disappointing. All right. Also, I apologize. Yesterday's live ended on a very abrupt and somewhat strange note. If you're curious about what actually happened, you can definitely go check it out. Check out the censored version on X/Twitter, or on Instagram if you're following us. But yeah, not very cool. We do call-in shows to talk to people, and I don't screen these callers, so I really appreciate y'all staying patient with that. Sometimes we do not get good callers.
Go ahead, guys.
What would you say the big difference was? Just our energy. I think we shared the ball really well. We were knocking down shots. We were open shots, so just our sharing the ball and our energy was great.
What do you think? Okay, moving on.
I hope that's not live.
Obviously, you weren't able to get in a rhythm in game 1. Why do you think you were able to get rolling pretty much right out of the bat tonight?
Just mentality. I think today was one of the hardest games I had to play. I'm battling out there, trying to do my best to help the team win. But just my mentality, have a great start, and then team is gonna follow me. So they follow me and Kai, and we got to do that.
So, Luca, you guys had 19 assists in game one. You had 20 in the first half tonight. Just talk about the way the ball was moving.
Yeah, like I said, we were sharing the ball. We saw some more hits coming, and double team. And when we see that, we see them all regular season, so we kind of used to it. So we just hit the big and then play out of it. We got a lot of space, and we have some good players.
Seemed like it was a pretty physical game throughout. You took a couple bumps to your legs. Just could you tell me what happened on that play with you and Case on Wallace, where I guess he collided with your leg?
He just step on my foot, but nothing serious. I know he didn't do it on purpose, so nothing serious. I just thought it was a foul. I think our people will get a foul call on that one. Transition foul, right?
Obviously, there was a lot of chirping going on from the crowd too. Just how do you feed off that, and how does it translate to your play?
That's great for me. I love it. I was one guy courtside going at my family. I don't like that, man. You're a grown-ass man. Just can't do that, But I didn't do nothing. I just went back, nothing. But just it's crazy. It's a grown-ass man come at my family. It's kind of nuts.
What do you think your thoughts on the bench play? Obviously, how they helped out and PJ had a huge night.
Great. Both PJ played amazing, man. We went to him at first play. We got to do that more. We got to give him the ball more. Off the bench, Josh, D-Live, Tim, they were all incredible. It was a whole team effort, and everybody stepped on the floor, fought.
Luca, what does it mean just to tie the series up, knowing now that it shifts back to Dallas on your home court for the next two?
Big, man. They have amazing team. Shea's an amazing player. He lead this young team to first seed, which is unbelievable. And it's tough. They have great players. They have great chemistry, great team, and it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be a fight till the end. Just much respect to Oklahoma, but it's big time. We won this game.
Tim talked about it before. You came out really hot in that first quarter. What was your mindset to start this game, Luca?
Just get off to a good start. Attacking downhill. I was happy. I hit at least some threes. I was so happy. I was trying to focus on my balance. My balance on shots wasn't good, so I just trying to focus on that. And when I get in my balance, shot normally goes in.
Did your shot feel any better, like in the last couple of days? Did you know early on it felt good? Was there any different feel?
I mean, like I said, I just try to focus on my balance. Right now it's kind of tough. The step backs, the shots, get down on my legs. But just trying to focus on my balance and then trying to make the team play.
Luca, Kyrie didn't really have much of a scoring punch tonight, but he's whipping these cross-court passes, all the touch passes to guys, defensive contributions that he's been putting together. Have you been kind of impressed in the playoffs, maybe, his all-around ability to impact these games?
I'm not impressed. I saw it before. He can do everything on the floor. And we should talk about his defense, too. He's been playing amazing defense this whole playoffs. And I know a lot of guys won't talk about it, but he's been amazing on both sides, helping everybody. And just, like I always say, it's amazing to have him on our team and to learn from him a lot.
Luca, you said the whole team went out there and fought tonight. I'll keep their quote PC, but both Derek Jones and Derek Lively came off the court saying, "I'll die for this-ish." What is it like to play with such passionate players, throughout the whole roster?
Great. Both. Not just them, but like I said, the whole team. When you see everybody being together, everybody putting the effort in, sometimes you're not going to win, sometimes you will, but, when you give 100%, it's a mutual respect, and we all just go out there and fight. Thank you.
Interesting. Let's hear from Jason Tatum about how the Celtics lost.
In this series specifically, finding the spots you want to get to on the floor.
The challenge, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a challenge. I obviously wish I would make more shots, but been in the league long enough that sometimes you just don't make them. You just got to still continue to take the right shots. And it'll even out, but not really getting caught up on that. I know how to score the ball.
I was going to ask how you're kind of processing that, especially, on the whole in the postseason, some of the shooting struggles you're going through. And is anything kind of limiting you physically at all?
No. It's as simple as, sometimes you don't shoot the ball as well as you would like. But, you play enough basketball, the law averages. It'll equal out eventually. But in the meantime, find a way to win. Find a way to impact the game in other ways. Scoring is, kind of like the least of my worries.
Yeah, Jason, along those lines, defensively, what broke down and how were they able to get inside?
They shot the ball a lot better today than they did last game. Some of our, communication was a little off in that second half, something we got to be better at. Limit them to one shot, and they hit some tough shots. It's part of it there. Good basketball team, good players. They're gonna make some shots.
Do you feel like it was their defense that took you guys out of your offense? Was it execution?
I don't think so. I think our spacing, right? We didn't have the right spacing enough on enough possessions. I think when we did attack the rim collectively as a group, we could have. It's a lot of kick-out opportunities we missed, and then 41% from the field and 22% from the three. We just didn't make shots. So make it mislead.
When you're making those reads, those rim reads, is it a matter of like you see a matchup in front of you? Do you get maybe too focused on the matchup where you're not seeing those kickouts, or like what's going on there when you talk about the spacing and missing those reads, missing those kickouts?
I think comes back to communication, right? We have a matchup that we like. It's on all of us to get to the right spacing where we're supposed to be, and we know exactly where we're supposed to be. And it's not necessarily. I'm not really watching the defender in front of me, right? I'm seeing who's helping, who's going to come meet me at the rim. So I'm always reading the defenders behind the guy that's guarding me.
And do the misses kind of like bleed over into the other end? Like you just read off the numbers, but it was you were, I think, 11% from three in the second half where they started to pull away. Did those misses kind of like lead to more miscommunications on the other end where they're able to pile up runs?
I think in the aspect of it's easier to play when you don't have to take the ball up. So we not hitting shots, they getting the ball out and running in transition. It kind of opens things up for them. When you make shots, they got to take the ball out. Just naturally, it forces the team to play slower. So to answer your question, it does play a part when you're not hitting shots and they leaking out or they pushing the ball in transition. Makes it a little tougher.
Jason, looking ahead to Game 3, obviously the same situation as the Miami series, tied at a game apiece. Do you view it as being pretty much the same, or is there more of a concern given the margin tonight, Kristaps being out? What's your mindset?
That series is behind us, so I'm not thinking about that at all. And, they all count the same, whether we lost by 3 or lost by 25. They all count as one. So get this one behind us and watch film and be ready for Saturday.
Jason, mentally, how do you guys respond? I mean, they embarrassed you. I mean, they won by 28 on your home floor. This is like it was, you know, if you lose the buzzer, maybe you guys feel a little different. But how do you kind of respond from a thumping like this, and then mentally knowing that now, tomorrow, the talk is about all your flaws, the team's flaws. That's going to be the narrative, and go into a kind of a raucous environment in Cleveland.
Just get ready for Saturday. Nobody was in there defeated or deflated. I mean, you never want to lose, especially in the playoffs. A lot of things we can learn from, and we get it, right? The world thinks we're never supposed to lose. We're supposed to win every game by 25. And it's not going to be like that all the time. So, we don't expect it to be easy. It's a good team we playing. It's the second round of the playoffs. So it's just going to be fun the rest of the series, and especially come Saturday. But, we've bounced back plenty of times. We lost, 16 games this year? So I would like to think that we respond pretty well the few times that we did lose.
Has your guys' success this year spoiled, you think, fans, people around you, to think that you're supposed to win every game?
That's the narrative that you might see on TV. The idea that we have a super team. It's twofold, right? We didn't have the coach of the year. We didn't have the MVP. We only had 2 All-Stars. So they say we're a super team, but, we didn't get rewarded like we are. But, we know we got a good team. We're not perfect. We play the right way more often than not. And we know we got to be better. But, for, I guess, saying people that are spoiled from our success, we don't pay attention to those things. We just go out there and control what we can control.
Last question to Jared.
Mitchell's been cooking in this series, and he's playing kind of very free, open space. You're kind of fighting tooth and nail, like really trying to go at Strus, trying to find what you can. How does it feel for you when you see like another star who's kind of playing in his comfort zone, playing in his flow, being able to score at will while you're fighting for it?
How does that make me feel?
When you see him like get a basket, like going straight through you, then you come down the other end, how does that motivate you to try to find a way to score?
I don't get into the one-on-one matchup, trying to outscore, the other team's best player. Just trying to focus on winning the championship. In the middle of the game, I'm not worried about individual matchups. I understand, I really just focus on the game plan that we are trying to execute. I understand the other teams are not just going to let me, it's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be a fight, and part of my job is figuring that out, how to contribute in every way. And it's a process. It's not supposed to be easy, but that's the fun part about it. So it doesn't cross my mind of, trying to battle with somebody else's, what can I do to impact this game for us to win, on the team level.
Interesting. I want to play something for y'all, which is a bit of a motivational quote that's been on my mind a lot today. And it was like this. So probably there was a better way to play this, but I'm just going to play it off my phone and y'all can just hear it, okay?
What percentage of the fan, the only bird that dares to peck an eagle is the crow. The crow sits on the eagle's back and bites its neck.
Wait, hold on. I got to watch the whole thing. Hang on.
The only bird that dares to peck an eagle is the crow. The crow sits on the eagle's back and bites its neck. The eagle does not attempt to shake it off or fight it. It doesn't spend its time or energy on the small nuisance. Instead, it just opens its wings and begins to rise higher into the sky. The higher the flight, the harder it is for the crow to breathe and hold on, until it eventually falls off due to a lack of oxygen. Learn from the eagle, and don't spend your time fighting crows. Just keep ascending. They may be...
Facts. So, think about it. Look, man, I see the comments. JT's still a puppy. JT ain't a dog. What a contrasting character. Tatum takes too many jumpers. Yes, I agree with that. If Boston does win, he will not be Finals MVP. I can see why he'd take it. Sure. Jason Tatum has been one of my favorite players for years. And what I like about him is sometimes what I hate about him, which is that he's so cool. He's so laissez-faire about everything. He's just chill. He's not rah-rah. He doesn't get emotionally frazzled. He's just even keel. Paradise Light. Tatum's fraud. Okay. Just keep the same energy when he puts up 50 points, all right? I think he's one of the best players in the league. He rarely ever gets credit for it. He started to win without Kyrie. You know, he was the best player on that Boston team that made it to the Eastern Conference Finals when he was a rookie. I think some respect needs to be given to the career of Jason Tatum, and I don't think enough is, because we only talk about what hasn't gone right for him. He lost in the finals, lost this, lost that. I get all of it, man. But let's be real. Derek White was not considered a top 50 player before he got to Boston. He just wasn't. Okay, he was barely considered a top 100 player, so let's not cap on that, right? Players have been better playing with him. His team has been better. His team has been fantastic. His teams have been fantastic. They've always been deep playoff runs. Okay, so yeah, I mean, look, when DeMar and Kyle were going on those deep playoff runs and kept getting bounced by LeBron, everyone called them playoff frauds too. Okay. A202. This everybody eats offense isn't going to cut it at some point. Tatum's going to have to realize he's that dude. But see, the truth is that maybe he's not always going to be that dude, right? I mean, there's different ways to success. Truth be told, you can be the leader of a team and still have somebody else eat. Jaylen Brown is a $50+ million player. He's an all NBA guy. Where's Jaylen Brown, right? I mean, if Jaylen Brown has a 40 piece, is Jason Tatum a worse player for it? I feel like everyone, you know, for instance, like if tomorrow, if the Denver Nuggets scheme Ant Edwards and he passes out and Jaden McDaniels has 25 points and Karl-Anthony Towns has 40, is that a detriment? Is that a bad thing that Anthony Edwards didn't take over? No, I don't think so at all. You know, thinking of tomorrow's games a lot right now and how much I'm pulling for Denver to at least make this competitive, because it would be really sad to see Nikola Jokic win MVP and then get swept, right? I'm trying to think of an MVP ever got swept. I think Dirk. Was that the year? Did that happen? Was that the year he won MVP and then he got swept? I can't remember. Here's the thing. Dirk 2007. Did Dirk win MVP in 2007? That feels right. The MVP is all-time NBA. Hang on one second. Okay. Let's go back in history here. Dirk, 2006, 2007. Yes. Damn. I do believe that was the We Believe Warriors. Shit. And they got swept by the We Believe. Alexander saying his teams have always been great and have gotten better throughout the years. I don't know what more recognition he wants for All-Stars. Him being MVP consideration makes you a part of the super team now. I don't think his point was that he wanted more recognition. I think you're misconstruing that. And sometimes we have a tendency to see, I don't know, look into comments by people we don't like and see them as something that they're not. I don't. I think he was just merely pointing out that if we're a super team, it certainly wasn't shown in the accolades, right? I don't think there's anything wrong with what he said. Here's the thing. Kyrie and Luca were laughing at the end of the bench when they got smoked in game 1 by the Thunder. Do y'all remember that? Luca was laughing. After the terrible game that Luca had, I think most fans would probably look at a guy like Luca and say, "Why are you laughing? You should be sad," right? Being sad after losses is not productive. I think Jason Tatum has a very stoic personality and AT02. His comments tell me he's trying to take away some pressure. I don't think he's trying to take away pressure. I think he's trying to dose it in reality. The truth is, the Celtics did not play well tonight. The truth is, Celtics are their own worst enemy. The truth is, the Celtics really, really dialed in defensively and played a really great game offensively. He didn't come out and say we played great. I mean, I think he acknowledged that shit like this happens. Unfortunately for the Celtics, when it happens, there's a lot of triggers because it's happened so often in the past. That being said, I don't dislike Tatum one bit. I'm a fan. I'm just trying to understand his comments. That's all. Okay, so try to understand the comments like this. He's been in the NBA long enough and he's been playing serious basketball long enough to know that some nights you just don't have it. Now, there's a lot of places in tonight's game where I could say he's right. The spacing was awful for the team, and it wasn't just him. I do think that he made a ton of mistakes. Some of them were effort mistakes. Some of them were read mistakes. I don't think either him or Jaylen Brown are top 5 players in the NBA, and so there's a very, very serious debate to be had whether either of them are the best offensive player in this series, because I think you can make a really solid case for Donovan Mitchell. Okay. And when you start to take the other guys out, did Ant surpass Tatum already? I mean, in some respects, yes, because he is, 3 years younger and he's doing things that are very Tatum-esque right now. If it's not now for Tatum, it's never. Seize the opportunity. All the stars in the East are hurt and went to Cancun. The East is not getting better. The East is probably getting worse next year. 1, so it's not now or never. Number 2, I really think that Jason Tatum is one of those guys that's going to continue to get better as well. But that being said, where's his career going? Let's take a look. Let's take a look at Jason Tatum's career and just see who we're talking about here. And let's just see if there's been a bit of a complacency or a regression, because this is a guy who, really for the most part was getting better pretty much every single year. But I do feel there's a little bit of a flat line with him right now. So here we are, right? So there's the tops. So we're talking about a 5.5 value of a replacement for 5.1 value of replacement, 5.5 box plus minus guy last year. And this year, both numbers fell. And he played relatively close to the same minutes. Per 100 possessions, I would make an argument that he fell off a little bit, right? So the season he's having this year is pretty much identical to 23, which means that in 3 years, really, 5-time All-Star at 25. Think about that. Think about who we're talking about here. 5-time All-Star at 25? Like, are we getting a little bit stupid now? Like when we're talking about Jason Tatum, right? Like how many 5-time All-Stars do you know at 25, man? He was one of the youngest first-time All-Stars ever. It's very rare to make an All-Star team this early. Anyways, point being that yes, his production has flatlined a little bit, right? As his teammates have gotten better. But, if you look at Jaylen Brown, I'm pretty sure you can make a case that his production is pretty much flatlined. He's still a much better player. Hard to say. When you stack a team like this, where there's a lot of depth and a lot of parity, it's really difficult for people to shine as individuals. It's not like Steph Curry got worse when, Kevin Durant got there, or Klay got worse when KD got there, but their numbers did dip. Your numbers are going to dip when you play with this much talent. Kristaps Porzingis is a big time shot taker, and he came in for Rob Williams. Okay. Like that's who he's replacing. Rob Williams is a hustle big. So naturally, Jason Tatum's numbers are going to drop a little bit. Let's take a look at who Jason Tatum's been in the playoffs, though. I mean, consistently better player, right? The only year where he hasn't been a better player in the playoffs than he was in the regular season is this year, where he's been pretty bad in the playoffs. So if we are to trust Jason Tatum, that means the best is yet to come because he's been a playoff riser. I mean, when we talk about 6.3 box plus minus in 17 games at the age of 21, that was the bubble year where the Raptors faced them. Holy shit, man. Holy shit. Like, I'm not saying that's LeBron level shit, but that is very, 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 very high level, like all NBA stuff at the age of 21. We did not, I don't think we've ever put him in the conversation of Luca because it's just a notch below Luca. And, you know, being a top 6, top 7 player and the most talented version of the NBA ever is not shade. Take a look at Luca. I'm curious, actually. Usually extend these to about an hour, so you got about 4 minutes left. Just to put their numbers into context. Luca, on the other hand, is having the best season of his life, right? 8 value replacement, 9.9 box plus minus. So yes, Luca is on a completely different tier and a completely different level as a player, and that's not shade because Luca is going to be one of the greatest, probably one of the 10, 12 greatest players of all time if he stays healthy. Luca in the playoffs has been a beast as well. But to put into context, like this year is the worst Luca we've ever seen in the playoffs. A 4.1 box plus minus, bro. Luca is such a playoff riser. In 2020, 2021, which was the year after the bubble, he had an 11.8 box plus minus through 7 games. That is insanity. Last year, he was a 9.3 box plus minus. Yikes. Dude. Like, this is on a completely different tier. John Hamilton, Luca should have been MVP. Okay, let's compare it. Luca versus Jokic statistical analysis. Okay, let's just do this. I mean, I think I would edge towards Nikola Jokic, and I realize that's probably hard for people to hear right now. It's Paradise Lost saying Shea got robbed. Okay, cool. Let's take a look here. So this is the guy who won MVP, and this is the guy who, John Hamilton thinks should have won MVP. Box plus minus, value replacement, effective field goal percentage, free throw percentage, field goal percentage, blocks, steals, unbelievably, rebounds, everything was in Jokic's favor. Assists 0.8 and 0.6 more. But in terms of the per 100 and per possession stuff, let's see. It's not that big a gap, man. It's a huge gap in terms of defense. In fact, per 100 possessions, Nikola Jokic had more assists, more steals, more blocks, fewer turnovers, almost as many points. And their teams were relatively similar. You could actually make a case that Jokic is a much better defender as well. He actually is a much better defender. He hasn't been in the playoffs, but he's a much better defender than Luca too. So offensively, I would say they are almost deadlocked even. Depends on what you value more. Do you value less turnovers and fewer points, lower volume, higher assists, or do you value and a little bit more defense, or do you value more scoring and a little bit more 3-point volume? Because I'll tell you right now, Jokic did not have the greatest season of his life. He definitely stepped back, and I think a little bit of giving him the MVP was a little bit of like a makeup for last year. But let's take a look at Jokic, because this is probably, the guy that most people think of when they think of analytics. And let's see who he's been so far in the playoffs. I have a feeling he's having one of his worst playoffs ever. Okay, so these bolded numbers in terms of boxes minus and value replacement, this is one of the greatest 4-year runs in NBA history. He should be a 4-time MVP right now. If you want to make a case that he didn't deserve it this year, I think you're wrong, but he definitely deserved it last year. 100% he deserved it last year. It was voter fatigue. And if this was a makeup vote, you owed him one. So fine. And if Shea got robbed, it's okay. Come back next year and win it again. It happens all the time. Okay. But like if I compare his MVP season to Derrick Rose or Kobe Bryant's MVP seasons, like you are going to see numbers like you wouldn't believe. Like I will do it for you actually. What is the year that Kobe won MVP? Hang on, let me check it. Kobe Bryant MVP. You will be actually. Let me compare it to Derrick Rose's third year because that's when. Hold on, now this is going to be very interesting for some people. Give you a context of two different types of MVPs. Hang on. Rose. Give me one sec here. Figure this out. This is Jokic versus D Rose. Hold on, let me sort for where the hell is it? Show criteria. So no. Choose seasons for each. So Jokic, 9th season. Okay, so this is Jokic's 3rd MVP season versus Derrick Rose's MVP season. Yeah, you're gonna freak out when you see the difference in these two players. That's the gap. Dude, that's the gap. So this guy, Derrick Rose, one of my favorite players of all time, here are his stats in his MVP season. 6.8 box plus minus. Jokic was 13.2 this year. 6.7 value replacement. Jokic was 10.6. Per 100 possessions. Okay. That's per 100. I'm scaling it up, so pace won't matter. Jokic scored more points, had more assists, grabbed over 3 times as many rebounds. He shot better from the field. He shot better from 3. He barely shot a little. He shot a little bit worse from the line. He had a 70% true shooting, whereas Derrick Rose in his best season ever had a 60% true shooting. Put some respect on greatness, man. Please put some respect on greatness. I don't think people understand who this man is. Now let's take a look at how bad he's been in the playoffs, because I believe he has been fucking awful. Advanced game log. Where are we at? Here are the playoffs. And this is, okay, so this is Jokic round 1. 17.5 box plus minus, 18.5, 13.6, 17.9. Final game versus the Lakers, he was terrible. 4.2. And that has carried through to the Minnesota Timberwolves, 4.2, and then 6.1. To put it into context, hang on. I went to a different page and I did not refresh. One sec. So take a look here. So this is right there. Those are the first 4 games against the Lakers. Okay. That's ridiculous. Let's just be real. An average game score. Like, dude, he has a 17 prorated warp. Like, do you understand what a step up that is? In those first 4 games, Jokic was on a heater. He was on record for like all time greatness. Okay. If that player shows up to the Minnesota Timberwolves series, the Minnesota Timberwolves are toast. Okay. Unfortunately, game 5, which they won, okay, by the hair of their chinny chin chins, he did not have a great game by his standards. He was a 4.2 box plus minus. Then he was a 4.2 box plus minus against Minnesota in a loss. And then another 4.2 box plus 6.1 box plus minus. It's going back up. Okay. In order for them to win tomorrow, they're going to need like a 15 or 16 type of game from him. I do, however, want to say something. Jokic's worst games are like Steve Nash MVP games. If I actually compare like impact metrics, Steve Nash's best, like an average game from MVP Steve Nash is like a bad game from Jokic. That's the gap. People who do not put respect on this guy's name, they don't get basketball. Now, I understand there's a lot of people out there who believe that analytics are wrong. They're not. His impact is real. Unfortunately for him, this is a really bad matchup, and his teammates are not showing up. Sheridan Forbes, MVP is rewarded weirdly nowadays. Before, it used to go to the best player on the best team. Now it's all over the place. It can go to a player who has the best season. Did it? Did it really, though? Did it go to the best player on the best team? Karl Malone, was he the best player on the best team? I don't know. I don't think so. Charles Barkley, was he the best player on the best team? I don't think so. Dirk Nowitzki was the best player on the best team. Fine. Okay. But sometimes the best player on the best team, I think, you want to make a case, maybe super teams ended this. Can you give LeBron MVP because, the Miami Heat win like 60 plus games? Can you give Steph MVP because the Golden State Warriors won 73 games? Or does somebody, who's maybe not those guys deserve it more? Guys like Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook won it because of statistical dominance, right? Now, I think Russ is one of the worst MVPs ever. And you can make a case that James Harden's up there. But yeah, like the numbers mattered. It's all about individual contributions. And so there was this theory prior to super teams that, the best player on the best team must be making the greatest contribution because his team is so good. But now in the era of super teams, maybe like, for instance, I'll give you an example. So let's just say that Derrick Rose had remained healthy, right? And let's say his Bulls continue to win like 60 games, right? Is that worth more than Steph's 73 game season? Or, the year after when they had KD or LeBron in Miami. Like if you have LeBron, D Wade, Chris Bosh, is that, do you know what I mean? Like the what you're talking about is equally illogical to me. I think this makes more sense. You're reducing it down to a single metric, which is value over replacement, which is a great way, in my opinion, to evaluate, who is in fact creating the greatest value over replacement. People clown Borp all the time because it's such an easy thing to say and it's such an easy thing to misunderstand. But the truth is, it is a great predictor of MVPs. And even when you go back in history, before VORP was even a thing and before it was in the vernacular or the lexicon of the NBA fan, it often tracked MVP winners very accurately. Yeah. Luca's 7 40-point games saved their season. Yeah. I don't think so, but yeah. Anyways, guys, I will see y'all tomorrow. Interesting night, of course. Interesting night. I did not expect the Celtics to lose. I did expect OKC to lose, so 1 for 2. But overall, I think these are long series, right? Should not live and die by any moment. I am not worried about the Celtics. I am, however, a little bit worried about the OKC Thunder. It's one thing, if you're the Celtics, like you lose this game, maybe you lose one in Cleveland, you come back, and then you just got to win, hold on. You got to win 2 out of 3 and you got game 7 at home. Okay. I can make an argument actually that the Celtics, weirdly enough, it might have been in their favor to extend this series by at least 1 game. You know what I mean? Like make it a little hard on yourself, almost like give them home court advantage, like test it out in game 1, take game 2 off, and now go and try to win as many games as you can in this series and see if you can get out of it. Almost like giving yourself a handicap, because the truth is, like, if you don't use it, you lose it kind of thing. A lot of people are worried about the Boston Celtics being a little too under-tested, right? Who do you think will represent the Raptors for lottery day? Possibly RJ Barrett, possibly Scotty Barnes, maybe Emmanuel Quickly, maybe Grady Dick. I don't know. I'm hoping it's a player though. That would be nice. I know it's going to be a player because if it's one of those general managers or if it's Masai or Bobby, you're gonna have to see their face when they convey that pick to the San Antonio Spurs. I am all but relegated to the idea that we are going to give this pick to the Spurs, guys. So I don't know. I was watching a Sam Vecini mock draft episode on whatever that podcast he does, and he said that his criteria for his mock draft was that the Raptors had to keep their pick and he had to do the simulation on Tankathon 7 times. Dude. It doesn't look good, is what I'll say. All right. So get ready. Get ready for not a happy Sunday. But hey, I mean, it could completely go the other way. The NBA flattened the lottery odds. There's a very good chance. I don't say very good chance. There's a good chance the Raptors get a top 3 pick. Honestly, the Raptors' odds of getting a top 3 pick today are higher than their odds would have been as the 5th team like 10 years ago before they flattened the odds. So did teams jump up from 5 to 1? Yeah, happened. Yeah. So the pick is gone, fellas. Well, it's definitely not gone, but expect that to happen. When you expect that to happen, because when you expect that to happen, anything better than that turns into a positive surprise. If you win the lottery, you get number 1 pick. Okay, congratulations. I will not be celebrating if we win the lottery. I'll be like, great. This is fucking worse than when you won the lottery in the Bargnani year. I'm kind of like, yeah. I don't care. It's that simple. I don't care. I'm kind of like, if I had a lucky rabbit foot, I'd be like 3 or 4. Partially I'm relegated to that because, again, I know that people don't want to hear this, and I've already been told that people are going to clown this take, and I don't really give a shit. I don't want to pay a 6th type of prospect, like a 6th overall type pick that I have to pick at first. I don't have to pay them. I don't want to pay them like a 1st overall pick. I just don't, because this player, regardless of whether they pick 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, is not going to help me win next year. Just not. Here's the thought exercise. How many players in last year's draft would go 1st overall in this year's draft? How many? Just count them out. Wemby, of course. Scoot, of course. Brandon Miller, of course. Those 3 locks, right? If I flash you like the last 3 years of draft classes and just put every fucking pick, all those players, last 3 years into this draft, right? When is the first player from the 2024 class actually getting called? That's what I would love to know. Let's do it. Let's figure that out. Take Paolo, take Chet, all those guys. All those guys. I'm not talking Anthony Edwards draft. The draft after. So Scotty, Cade, Şengün, Franz, all those guys. And not who those guys became, but who those guys were as prospects. Whoever you think is the first pick in this draft, put that player in another draft and see where would you pick him in that draft. Now answer your question for yourself. You really want the number 1 pick in this draft? I don't think so, man. It's just a weird draft. It won't, like, I'm perfectly fine keeping 6. I'm perfectly fine moving up to 4. Personally, I just think number 1 is overkill. It's just a little weird. It's a lot of pressure too. It's a pressure of being a number 1 overall pick when you're not a number 1 overall pick. He's not like Anthony Edwards. He's not like Victor Wembanyama. He's not supposed to be. Whoever the hell is number 1 pick in this draft is going to not only have the salary of a number 1 overall pick, because that's the way these things are set up to work, but also is going to have the expectations of a number 1 overall pick. And he's going to have to compete with, Paolo Bancheros and, Victor Wembanyama's and Anthony Edwards and Shaquille O'Neal's and all the former number 1 overall picks. And when he comes out and he averages 6 points per game, if it's Alex Sarr, when he can't make a jump shot and he's getting bullied by, D-League players, you're going to say this guy's a bust. You're going to say he's James Wiseman. You're going to say whatever. And it's not going to be the guy's fault. And if he's not mentally like the toughest dude in the world, he's going to fail. Imagine the scenes if we get the first pick, though. Imagine the scenes. Well, I expect a lot of people in this media space to be very, very excited and very happy and very, very celebratory because, it's more content, it's more whatever. You're not going to see me change my tune on this. I don't fucking care. unless somebody emerges in the pre-draft workout process, some prospect rises and everyone starts going crazy about their workout and their tape and, oh my God, this guy was a big sleeper and everyone is, trying to hold him in a secret. Look, Scotty was like that, in the weeks leading up to the draft, I want to say like 2-3 months before the draft, Scotty was like the eighth, 7th. And I talked to Brian about this, where, there were a lot of teams that were secretly wanting to keep him a secret. They wanted him to fall to 6 or 7 or 5 or whatever. They don't want to hype him up. They don't want to talk about their interest in him. If there's a player like that who's currently in the 6-7 range, maybe it's a Ron Holland who had a growth spurt, or maybe the Nikola Topic, or maybe, Zachary Risache's shooting slump is just a figment of our imagination. And really he comes into workouts and he hits every single shot and he grew an inch and he looks better and stronger. And people are like, oh my God, there is a number 1 overall pick. He's way better than Michael Porter Jr. part 2. I don't know. Until that player emerges, I'm not enamored with a top 3 pick in this draft. I'm just not. And again, the other day, I did a poll on X/Twitter, X/Twitter, in which I asked our followers who are mostly Raptor fans, and I asked them, what's the weakest draft in the last 4 years? They gave me options: 2020, Anthony Edwards, LaMelo Ball, Tyrese Halliburton, that draft. 2021, Scotty Barnes, Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley, Franz Wagner, that draft. Or 2022, with Paolo, Chet, Keegan, those guys. Or 2023 with Wemby, Scoot, Brandon Miller. 2021 won by a landslide. Now, guess which draft was actually mocked as the generational draft? It was 2021. Now, I don't agree that 2021 is the worst draft in the last 4 years. I absolutely vehemently disagree with that, actually. I think 2021 is better than 2022. I think 2023 is better because of Wemby. But I think the depth in 2021 will be good. But the I guess the case study here is 2020, where it was considered a weak draft. And look at how many great players it's turned out. Tyrese Maxey, Tyrese Halliburton, Emmanuel Quickley, Anthony Edwards. Like, there's a lot of really good players in that draft. In fact, I think there are more great players in the 2021 draft. If you really start to extend the depth of the 2021 draft, just because, some of the top prospects have kind of not caught on yet, you could still make a case for Cade and Jalen Green because they had a really strong finish to the season. But you could also make a case, that there were some duds. There's always some duds, and most likely that dud is picked up by the Sacramento Kings. In that case, Davion Mitchell. But you could also make a case that there was some excellent mid-first rounders. I mean, Josh Giddey hasn't really worked out, and I don't suspect he will work out. But Alperen Sengun, Trey Murphy III in the middle of the first round. Holy shit. Those are like, I would trade the first pick and the second pick in this year's draft together, combined, for Alperen Sengun right now. So just to give you context of how good the 2021 draft was, yeah, it was pretty good. Not as good as people thought it would be. It's just different. So what I'm saying is draft analysis is sometimes flawed. People are wrong all the time. People don't want to admit it, but they're wrong all the time. So I'm personally, I don't think the Raptors will think this way, but I think this way. So there are certain players where they might be too much to pass up on. Like a guy like Alex Sarr might be too much to pass up on, right? But maybe you're not enamored with him, because if you were enamored with him, as I said before, this would be considered a better draft class. So if you end up first overall, maybe you can move back 4 spots, 5 spots, and get the guy that you really want. And you can get like some extra assets, provided there is somebody out there who's really enamored with Alex Sarr. And if that team emerges, then I'm happy to get the first overall pick. I'm not happy to use the first overall pick again because I'm not enamored with Alex Sarr. And so if you use the first overall pick, it's probably going to be on the guy that you would have gotten at 4 anyway, but you pick him first. Now you have to pay him like the first overall pick. You could have gotten him at 4 anyway. And because trading back in the draft when you're this high up is usually frowned upon and kind of weird, I don't know. Like, you can. Brian Colangelo did it with Markelle Fultz. Sorry, Danny Ainge did it with Jason Tatum. Smart trader, Danny. He wanted Jason Tatum. Didn't want to take Jason Tatum first for whatever reason because, he wasn't sold on either Markelle Fultz or Lonzo Ball. Kudos to him. And so, he decided to move back 2 spots and he got extra assets for it. So maybe the Raptors do something like that. But I just don't think there is no Markelle Fultz and Lonzo Ball in this year's draft. I'm telling you, I know as much as you may not think well of Markelle Fultz today, Markelle Fultz, the prospect, was leaps and bounds ahead of any player in this draft class. So really, when I think about this year's draft class, I'm really curious if Bilal Coulibaly would go number 1 in this year's draft class. Maybe. Would Anthony Black go number 1 in this year's draft class? Maybe. He was a top 5 pick last year. Yeah, probably. Brandon Miller would 100%. Scoot would 100%. Would Grady? I don't know. But Grady would be a top 3-4 pick in this draft. And so therein lies the context of what we're talking about. You got Grady Dick at 13th last year. 13th overall pick, right? And you said, well, he's a late lottery pick. If you got Grady Dick again this year, he would be a top 4 pick. What's the better value? Now, frame this back. I believe that the 2025 draft class is actually better in terms of depth in the lottery than the 2023 draft class in which you got Grady Dick. So now when you talk about team convey or team not convey, imagine conveying the 8th overall pick next year in order to keep the 4th overall pick this year. That's why I keep saying I'm so indifferent to this, because there's pros and cons to both. And I know that sitting on a fence is not considered bold or whatever for a basketball analyst, but I'm just trying to tell y'all, man, there are really pros and cons to both. And you can fuck up royally because, again, the downline, everything is in sequence. Time moves forward, right? You get the player this year, right? This player, he takes $10 million off your cap because he's the first overall pick. 11 million, 12 million. What does the first overall pick even get paid? Hold on one sec. I need to figure this out 1 second. I'm OCD about this stuff. So Victor Wembanyama salary. Hold on. Okay. So the first overall pick salary is $12 million. Holy fucking shit. That is a mid-level exception. Okay. So immediately, that's fucked. $12 million. Okay. That's $12 million to a player who will not earn $12 million next year. Congratulations. You also have a whole bunch of other players who are not going to earn their contract next year. Case in point, Jakob Poeltl, probably not going to earn his $19 million. Case in point, again, RJ Barrett, probably not going to earn his $27 million unless things get way better for him. So the only player that you're going to be extracting significant, Grady Dick may not earn his value next year. I don't know. Maybe he'll accelerate. But you start going down. Hold on. Let me show you the Raptors. Raptors salary sports track. Hold on 1 sec. Here we go. Okay. So here we are. Why is Pascal Siakam still on this? Track. What's going on here? What? Nah, this is wrong. What's going on here? Derek White? No, this is wrong. What the hell is going on? They got Kelly Olynyk, Dennis Schroeder. They got everybody. This is fucked up. Okay. What? Okay. Hang on. We got to go to hoop site. 1 sec. What am I doing wrong, world? Hoop site, hoop hype salary. Okay. So here we go. That's cool. Okay. Spencer Dinwiddie's contract. It's gone. Yikes. Okay. Jakob Poeltl. Is he gonna earn that? No. Bruce Brown, if you keep him and then hold on to him as an expiring, is he going to earn that? Fuck no. RJ Barrett, is he going to earn 25 million, 26 million next year? Borderline, probably not. You have Emmanuel Quickley, who is going to be on an extension, probably starting at 27 to 28 million. Is he going to earn that? Probably not. Jalen McDaniels is not earning his contract. Grady Dick is probably going to just barely eke out the value on his contract if he gets way better. Scotty Barnes will earn his contract, so you can bet money on that. He will probably out earn his contract 3 to 4 times over. So he's worth around $30 million right now. Scotty's impact is around $28 to $30 million. He'll make $10 million next year. Greatest contract, one of the best contracts in the league. Kelly Olynyk, $12 million. Close. He's close to that. He's worth close to that. His stretch shooting and all that stuff. Ochai Agbaji, $4 million. Is he worth that? Not really. He's kind of like a minimum value kind of guy right now. So the Raptors really, you add another $12 million to this, dude. Now you're really fucked, because it's really hard. I mean, when you start talking about like how the Raptors have like different avenues to actually make trades and contracts and whatever, how are you supposed to find positive value? You give up assets. What assets can you give up? Positive value. So it's not like people are jumping over themselves to be like, oh, I would love to pay Chris Boucher $10 million to $11 million next year, and Bruce Brown $23 million next year. It's not, people are not jumping over themselves. They're not going to give you like their best young players for this. So this is where I say you save that $12 million, you just clear it out, right? Like, and I'm saying, like, in this case, the Raptors got the first overall pick, which would be $12 million. Obviously, you get the fourth overall pick, which is a nice sweet spot where you can still get a really, really high-end talent. You don't have to quite pay that extreme premium. And again, it's not just $12 million 1 year. You pay it across 4 years, right? You pay it across 4 years. There's also like a certain expectation. Oh, is a first overall pick, can you send them down to the G League? It's a little bit of a controversy if the first overall pick goes down to the G League. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of considerations here for why you may not want the first overall pick in this draft. Okay. So now again, there's a world in which RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, and Grady Dick all earn their contracts next year. I'm just saying it's not guaranteed. Now flip this and think about the teams you're up against. Okay. And I want you to be real with yourself. Hold on one sec. Just let me show you this. Think about the New York Knicks. Now, maybe the New York Knicks are not the greatest example because, the Knicks are going to be losing Isaiah Hartenstein, I believe, this offseason. But consider who should we consider? Who should we consider? The Cleveland Cavaliers? Sure. Let's consider the Cleveland Cavaliers. Is Darius Garland making is he earning $36 million next year? Probably not. Is Donovan Mitchell, between the two of them, are they worth 70? Sure. Allen, is he worth 20? Hell yes. Is Karis LeVert worth 16? Yeah, close. Is Max Strus worth 15? I would argue he's pretty close to that, right? Isaac Okoro, he's on a team option. They're probably going to extend him. Evan Mobley, 11. Easy. George Niang, overpaid. Dean Wade, massively underpaid. You know what I mean? Like, other teams are in a slightly better position than us in terms of that. Not that was the best example. I'll give you a good example, which would probably be a team like... Where are we at? Brooklyn? No, probably a bad example. Toronto, Chicago, another bad example. Philadelphia? Yeah. And that's the problem. When you have a superstar, you have leeway, right? If Joel Embiid plays a healthy season, what's he actually worth next year? $100 million. That means that you can overpay the rest of your roster and you still balance out, right? So until Scotty Barnes becomes a 60 million, 70 million type of guy, you're really not going to have that same amount of latitude. When you don't have a superstar, you don't have a chance sometimes because of how the NBA salary system is constructed. Now, if there was no max contract, you would always have a chance, right? Because Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic and Luca Doncic and teams that had these guys would have to pay them fairly. But right now, teams that have them don't pay them fairly. They pay them massively under. And then there are teams like the Indiana Pacers who overpay like hell, because the Indiana Pacers are going to be fucked. And I will actually show you why I think that. One second. So the Pacers have a very, very sweet salary situation, right? Right now. But very soon, it's about to get very, very scary times indeed. They have a Tyrese Halliburton extension kicking in next year at $35 million. I think he's pretty much worth that, right? Jarris Walker is on a great contract, and I believe he'll actually contribute in the middle of that contract. Obi Toppin is on a player option, I believe. If I'm not mistaken, Green means player option, right? Right. I think so. It's a qualifying offer, my bad. Ben Mathurin, he's going to need an extension at some point, and someone's going to offer him $25 million. So good luck. You're going to have to pay him RJ Barrett money. And then on top of that, the big matzo ball here is if you max out Pascal Siakam, right? Miles Turner is on the last year of his deal, and that was a sweet deal for him. He's going to need a massive extension. Doug McDermott contract over. TJ McConnell, you're going to lose him probably. And then the hope is at that point that you can extend someone like Aaron Nesmith's on a great deal. Like this is the type of deal you need. You need this type of deal on your roster. And this is the type of deal the Raptors do not have on their roster. This is the same money. Imagine you pay the same amount of money for Chris Boucher as the Indiana Pacers pay for Aaron Nesmith, who is much younger and much better than and that's the difference, man. This is called winning on the margins, right? I mean, it's not like you couldn't have traded for Aaron Nesmith and given him this money. You probably could have. You very well could have, right? And frankly, a long time ago, the Raptors used to get these guys. How do you think you got OG Anunoby on $17 million? He was one of the discount contracts. Like, again, this is just work. Okay. Ben Shepherd, great freaking deal. Andrew Nemhard, great deal. Second round players, great deals, right? And this is where it really starts to hurt that you don't have a Christian Coloco or a Jonte Porter work out for you, because those are the guys that would have added that positive value. You know what I mean? If Christian Coloco works out for you, he makes $2 million a year and provides you $6 million of value. Boom. Now you can sort of like cut out some of the negative aspects of Bruce Brown's contract, or maybe Gary Trent being a little overpaid. You know what I mean? Like I like coupling players. You know what I mean? Like, so are Scotty plus RJ plus Emmanuel Quickley, how much are those three worth as a trio? How much are they worth? Now it's easy to get a little exaggerated with this, like the Denver Nuggets did with how much are Michael Porter Jr., Nikola Jokic, and Jamal Murray worth? And then of course, if one of those guys goes out, you see the value the other two. But that being said, that is how teams build. That's always how teams work, right? There's this old story. About how Kawhi Leonard got to the LA Clippers, right? And he gave him kind of like, if you don't give me Paul George, I'm going back to Toronto, this sort of like threat. And so he gave Lawrence Frank a sort of ultimatum. Uncle Dennis did. I don't know if this story ever came out, but anyways, they go up and they say, we need Paul George. The OKC Thunder get wind of this. They know what's happening here. And so basically and Paul George wants to go. He wants to go to LA. And so they basically decide to extort the LA Clippers because they know that Paul George is the key to Kawhi Leonard. So Sam Presti plays hardball. He says he wants this pick and that pick, and he wants Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He wants this lion's share package. And Paul George is coming off a great season. Like he was playing incredible basketball. And so Lawrence Frank goes up to Steve Ballmer and their ownership, and he says, we have to do this. And he said, that's a lot to give up for Kawhi. That's a lot to give up for Paul George. Like, I think they gave up four first round picks and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who was a young player they really believed in. And he said, don't think of it as giving it up for Paul George. Think of it as giving it up for Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. And that's when they did it. So it's the same thing. It's the same theory, right? Anyways, 1 hour and 30 minutes into this, 2 a.m., I got to get some sleep. I'll talk to y'all later. Hit the like on your way out. I really appreciate that. At 2 a.m., we got 80 people in here. That's awesome. This community is great. I appreciate this community very much. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe. We are on our way to 10,000 subscribers. I'm looking very forward to hitting that milestone. Maybe we make a special video for that one. All right. Take care, guys. Have a great night. Peace.